Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Fed Up with me, Fed Up Gaz, the eternally miserable one. Joining me today are Brett and Pauline from the MEDEA Project. It is great to have you. How are you both doing today?
Oh, we're good, thanks.
Very well, thanks.
Awesome. That's really good to hear. The first thing I want to jump into you both is I was just nerding with you off air, so I think you're aware of just how nerdy I'm probably going to get on the show. The name itself, I don't know if you've been asked this before, is that in reference to Medea from Greek mythology?
Yeah, very much so.
Awesome.
So when I originally conceptualized the band, or even now, a lot of the lyrics are about like fractured bits of people's psyche.
Yeah.
And Medea was probably the archetype of a fractured individual. I mean, she was really tragic.
Yeah.
And there were so many facets to her, but yeah, kind of the name just worked.
Yeah. Isn't she such a good character though? Because like in Macedonia, I believe she's more revered, and then in Greece, she has kind of, not that I'm speaking for the whole of Greece, probably somebody in Greece is going to get mad at me now, but she's kind of viewed a little bit more of I guess, as a temptress who kind of like took Jason off distracted him from his quest or whatever, and it's just kind of that dual purpose to it.
There's a lot of duality to her, but I mean, she's also like associated with Hecate, who's many-faced.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you look at it one way, yes, she lured Jason away from his quest, but then she also helped him.
Yeah.
Like when her father set the tasks with I think it was the skeletons, wasn't it?
Mm.
And yeah, she helps him like succeed in those tasks. So yeah, she's a bit of a interesting character, and yeah, a little bit of on both sides. She could be a heroine, she could be a temptress, she could be this great individual, but she also could be a complete psycho hose beast, depending on how you view the story.
Yeah, those always make the most interesting stories, though, where it's someone who's got quite a more to them, not just say one-dimensional. And that story has always fascinated me. And when I first came across your band from Chris and Paul, shout out to both of them, that immediately grabbed my nerdy imagination. I thought, ooh, Medea, Greek mythology, which I think is always fantastic for anything in metal. I mean, Septic Flesh, fantastic bands, Kronos, etc. And again, I thought, I've got to ask them. And you have no idea how much I've been trying to behave all week. And not dude, Brett, what's the band called this? And I thought, no, wait for the show. You're going to have nothing to say. I was just sat here. Thanks for joining us. Yeah.
I would like to just say, though, when we originally named it, we had no idea that there was a women's incarcerated theatre project with the same name.
Really?
Yeah, so it's a rehabilitation project in America.
Right.
Where they basically get inmates to perform theatre as a form of rehabilitation. So
that sounds good.
It's quite an interesting like use of the name, and a pretty worthy cause.
Yeah.
And what's just caught me there as well, as we were saying, like can be a bit of both. It's almost as if it's like they're taking with that project, what they're doing is turning, I guess, like a positive from the negative, reforming people, etc. That's really interesting, man. I'm so pumped up. What I liked as well, I've gone through and I've listened to reflections over and over. Again, forgive my nerding here, but the opening, there's this, and this is a theme that's consistent throughout the album, but it has such it has this haunting, dark, moody feel that caught my attention straight away. Hooked me in it. It really did drag me into the album, which is a good thing. And it was very visually stimulating as well. I really could see kind of myself in this dark world, or I don't know, I was in an uncomfortable conversation with Jim the Fiend in some dark, dingy wine cellar one evening or something. Not that I've done that recently. So is that trying to behave myself? Have you always wanted to do that with music? Both of you really put in that atmosphere to grab people's attention?
No, it's not I want to do it. It's just
Right.
how we are.
Oh,
So
awesome.
we're a bit like that. We're
Yeah.
pretty extreme, like as people, like we like take things to the nth degree.
Yeah.
But we're not always comfortable. So
Yeah.
what other people might find comfortable, I guess we find uncomfortable, and what other people might find uncomfortable, we kind of find comfortable. It's just kind of weird. But yeah, it comes across in our music, and it's not that we deliberately go out and write like that. That's just what happens.
Yeah.
And we do have like we just do have quite a dark element to what we do. We do prefer to be honest, I mean personally I prefer the darker side of life. I'm comfortable with things being a little bit,
a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit rough, a little bit edgy.
Yeah. So it's not a deliberate thing. It's just, I think it's because of that's the way we are. That's how music comes out.
Yeah.
We tried, well, not tried intentionally, but when we did write something that might feel a little bit like less atmospheric, a little bit more upbeat, we eventually give up on it. We go, this feels a bit trite. And for another band, it might work perfectly. It might be exactly what you expect from them. From us, it feels like we're trying too hard and like
wrong.
Yeah, it's very much wrong.
But isn't that awesome? I say this all the time to people. If that naturally comes out and it just manifests from everything, that you're interested in, and then that comes out in the music, it always adds that more gritty, authentic feel to it, because that's there with you. Anybody who listens can hear that. Nerds like me that have overactive imaginations, that see everything visual anyway. Literally, I'm there, saying one of the horror movies I like as you were just saying, Pauline, people can find some of the things, say that you like, comfortable with, uncomfortable, and sometimes we say, how can you find all horror movies or whatever is relaxing? I say, I just do, I'm done. I'm not going to go and do anything to anybody. It's just the same with pro wrestling. It's escapism. Yes, I know it's all choreographed and it's very over the top, but it's just that escapism. And the same with sci-fi. When we were talking about dark synth and dark techno, it's those. There's just something about it where it's really dark and gritty that grabs you, that I think just makes it more real and more tangible for the palate as well. Rather than sometimes, and I'm going to say I don't like any cute stuff, but rather than it always being all fluffy and cutesy all the time. Yeah, I'm nerding already.
I actually think it's part of our primitive mindset, right?
Yeah.
We've always been scared of the dark. We've always been scared of all these things outside of our control. So when we channel naturally these elements out, it does play on you more, because it just feeds that little bit of your genetic memory that's always been there.
Yeah, but I think it just feels real. I mean, I don't do happy very well. I find
I never do in the morning.
To be honest, it's just it's like painted grins on people's faces. I don't know about that. But yeah, I think it's just, we've just not had life experiences like that. You know what I mean? So for us, that the reason why it's probably more comfortable is because it feels more real to us.
Yeah.
And that's, we just can't do things another way. So yeah.
and combining that with any kind of art, music or film or novels, like we've been saying, it really does come across as more real, because life has that element to it based on experiences. And sometimes some like you said, if they've got that painted smile or creepy smile, I find that more frightening than someone who's an absolute misery, because at least I know that person is real. There's nothing people think, oh, your mind's but there's nothing say hidden. I know I'm not always going around thinking everybody has an agenda before anybody says, not at all. But it's you see in those movies and TV series where the person going like that, that's usually the psychotic one, rather than the guy to think who's never happy about anything. And yeah. No, I'm not talking about myself, but anyway. So what I mean, what's good as well, the title for the opening song, the Ghosts of St Augustine, it really, it encapsulates that feeling as well. It's and then it just combines with the riffs. So I'm curious, what inspired the title? And
Do you want to tell him?
yeah.
Brain. I don't want to ruin it.
Well, no, because
Completely ruined
no, it's
it.
not completely ruined because the name is very relevant. But the story, you tell the story.
So it was a while ago. We went to go do a photo shoot.
Yeah.
And we went to like a derelict asylum.
Oh.
I think it was.
Yeah.
So there was a derelict asylum that they basically boarded up, and they'd fenced off because of asbestos. It was like a big asbestos
Whoa.
thing. Anyway, so we kind of snuck in with our photographer at the time.
Because she was desperate to get in there as well.
Ninja magic.
Yeah, so kind of dodged the security guards and we kind of snuck in there. And so we did the photo shoot, but there was like almost an essence around the place, maybe because you know what it is, but you're like you say, your brain starts going wild with all these theories that could have happened in these stories. But there was a kind of feel around the place.
Yeah, it was very haunted. It
does, yeah. It felt like you could almost feel people lived there and stuff happened there, and things like that. And it wasn't. We did this during the day, by the way, so it wasn't like we did this at night. And, but obviously, because you got the bushes growing and you got all these trees that are growing in between everything.
Yeah.
And then so we did the photo shoots, and then we found this this little skeleton toy. It was just really bizarre. So we found this.
Whoa.
Skeleton dog.
A little skeleton dog, but it was plastic. It wasn't real.
Yeah. Still it's.
And then we came up with this because I think the asylum was called St Augustine.
Yeah, it was St Augustine.
Right, yeah.
So, and then we got this skeleton dog, and just as a parting, last photo before we sneak back out again. But we took this photo, and then we were just I think we were joking about the ghosts.
The ghost of St Augustine was originally the skeleton dog, and the riff happened, and then the song happened, which kind of was the feeling we got when we were in the place.
Yeah.
So we had to name it the Ghost of St Augustines.
Yeah.
I'm totally engrossed. This is just superb. That is just like we were saying, real world inspired it. You do feel that feeling. It's made me think. In America, there's a very famous Civil War hospital. It's supposed to be the most haunted building in America. It's been on TV, and I can never remember the name when I talk about it. I remember once one guy went in, he went and filmed it for a documentary, and he said the feeling and presence in that place. He said he'd never felt anything like it. I think pooed his pants tremendously. And then there's that. What's it over here? There's that. I think it's in York of all places. It's supposed to be a pub that's supposed to be the most haunted. Yeah. Oh, what was that like then?
Yeah, so I went in there years and years ago. Yeah. I didn't know the history. I didn't know what it was. I went in there with a friend of ours. It's quite a small little pub, in the centre of York.
Yeah.
And then she said to me, "Oh, this is the most haunted place." But you know what the worst? Because it's so full of people. And I'm like, "Oh, I wish these people weren't here." Because it kind of
ruins the experience, doesn't it? Maybe offering you a gift pack on the way out as well.
Too many people out here.
It was haunted by the spirits of drinkers present.
So yeah, probably. But so I didn't get the feeling. But I remember when we went to Hampton Court.
Yeah.
Now I know Hampton Court's quite it's quite a popular establishment, I suppose.
Tourist destination.
But it was the overwhelming. It was quite a heavy. It was almost quite a heavy feeling.
It was especially when we were in the basement levels of it.
Yeah. It was
it's oppressive. It's heavy. You carry
really
it.
Oppressive. Yeah. So and it was that's something that we really do.
The other one was Ground Zero.
Oh God, yeah, we went to New York.
We went to New York beginning of last year, and we went to go to the memorial at Ground Zero, and that is the heaviest feeling I've ever felt from just an area. You can feel it. It's impossible to describe. I mean, I'm actually getting goosebumps thinking about it now.
Yeah.
But yeah, the world, I mean, there are places in the world where we've left scars on it, and you can feel the scars we've left.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. If you think of all, some of these terrible events that have happened, there's no wonder it leaves that scar. I mean, it's making me think of stories that people have told me about Auschwitz. I think when the birds actually, fly around it, and it's a sickly feeling. That famous forest in Japan, which I did a horror movie about.
Yeah.
And then I talked about this. It was maybe with Phil from Final Coil. I know it was one of the recent guests. And when my dad was in the army, and he was on patrol on a base one night when he was over here, and he was walking there, the Alsatian dogs around them, huge dogs, and he said he got to one part on the base where the dogs just kept going nuts, and whatever he did, he couldn't control them, and they're obviously trained, like pro dog handlers, to know how to calm them too. And he said he just could not get the dogs to calm down in this particular spot. And he said his commanding officer told him it was one part of the base. I don't know what had happened, but it was haunted, and everything whoever took the dogs there any time of day, they just would go absolutely nuts. So I think, I mean, I have an open mind with this stuff. I think, like you said, Brett, where something's happened, particularly if you look back at some of these battles in history, or something really horrible happens to somebody, it's got to leave that memory, or that scarring, or that unrestful spirit. The other side of it, hey, if you want to go and shoot a metal video or be inspired for a song like you, or a movie, well, you'll certainly get that. There's that purpose. There's a press release, right? This will terrify you, but you'll get a song out of it. Come very soon. Yeah.
A bit like Cannibal Holocaust. We have to prove all the cast is alive at the end.
Yeah. I've seen many rip-offs of that movie as well. Some of them utterly atrocious, but yeah. But that is a super interesting story, and now that just make it actually, and this is no ego stroking, it makes me appreciate the song even more, because now knowing the background to it and the feels that I get from it, and this is a perfect segue into. And I've excused my language here. There's no other way I can describe this feeling. When I was listening to Warhead, and I think this is one of my favorites from Reflections, I literally shit myself, because the riffs, when I heard the riffs come in, they were very dark, very, very heavy. I was like, man, and this really grabbed me. Again, you can hear that dirt, the grain. I even can hear hints at other influences. If you listen very carefully, I can hear them. And what was good was that duality with the vocals, again, harsh and the clean, your backing vocals as well, Pauline. It just seemed to be, it fit everything. Had quite a sludgy-ish feel as well, with a very slight hardcore vibe in the background that I could hear. I'm just curious, how long did it take you to put that track together? Because it's definitely one of the standouts. And
you do know it's cover, right?
No, I didn't. So no, I did not know that.
Okay, so on Reflections, Reflections wasn't going to be an EP.
Right.
So the first song you're on about, Ghosts, we were approached by a good friend of ours, maybe somebody you can chat to, Claudio Ravanelli and Andrea Harrison, who run a film company called Fat Mandem.
Ooh.
And they wanted to do a video for at one of our songs, and they pitched an idea to us, and we went, well, we've got the perfect song. And they went, well, we need it to be under 4 minutes. We're like, oh shit. What are we going to do? So we went, right, let's see what we can. We came up with an edit, and then went, it's lost something, because we had to basically cut that opening track right down, pare it down. Yeah. And so I went and reworked some guitar bits, and then went, right, we're going to put it on the original. I'm going to rework it on the original, because the original was off our debut Sisyphus. We'd recorded Ghost beforehand, but it was a lot more sparse, I suppose, the way to put it.
Yeah.
It was at the best of our ability at the time.
Yeah, and the time that we had to
record Sisyphus. And so I always personally, I think we both felt we could do that song more justice. So we came back and revisited it, and then came up with the video edit. And then we said to Chris and Paul, look, we've got this that's going to happen. And they went, well, why don't you put an EP out? We go, well, we haven't got material yet for an EP because we're working on album 2, and that's all a cohesive idea. And they went, and they've been pestering us forever to cover Warhead, because it's a Venom track.
Oh God, I'm embarrassed. Venom are from my region as well. Ooh, sorry.
Oh, there went your northern badge.
yeah. I'll go. They'll be chasing me out with pitchforks. Get out. Get out.
It's one of the lesser known Venom B-sides. And they were being on to us because I think they really wanted just to hear Pauline play the toms on that, because it's got that tom and snare intro, and they're like, we just want to hear what you do with it. So they went, we'll do Warhead, and we're like, okay, fine, we'll do Warhead. And we played Goth City. Well, we were going to play Goth City, and because it was a goth festival, and we're not really goth, we're one of those interesting like little crossovers where the goth audience get us because we're dark, but we may be a little heavy for them. We decided to cover a Tiamat track because at least it might be something they know, which was Kane. But then we ended up taking a modern Tiamat track, which is quite gothy, and playing it much like early Tiamat, which is quite deathy. So we kind of defeated the purpose, but it was fun anyway. We basically had the core of an EP there. So that's how Warhead came about.
And there was the Motorhead one.
And the Motorhead one was, we did that for, so the Nightmare the Dreamtime's a Motorhead cover.
And that was a nice cover because that one was very goth. And it was it's like the polar opposite to the cover with Warhead, which is said very, very heavy. You can even hear like a sludgy vibe in there. I really do like your background vocals on that one as well, Pauline. As I mentioned, I like the anger coming in, matching Brett. That was something I really noticed, and that was pretty cool. But that cover, Nightmare the Dreamtime, I love that goth feeling of that one. And again, I'm just going to show again just how much of a nerd I am. But I could see myself like sat in a motel on a night, with city lights and a local vamp society conducting a meeting about why my behaviour isn't acceptable or something. I don't know, whatever they're doing. But it was a nice way, I thought, to close the EP. You have the good opener with the atmosphere I was on about. But this one, again, I don't know if you know this band. I must admit, I only recently discovered them, and it was through another PR company. And they're called Black Angel. I think the guy is originally from London. And man, they're killer goth rock. Highly recommend them. It's got all the dark edge to them. And hearing that cover, that just had all of those elements to it. It had me very excited again. It had the goth rock there, and I just thought, man, this is awesome, because you've got the heaviness, the doomy, the dark there feels, and then you've got something which I feel is very hauntingly beautiful. It's got that melody there, but still with the dark edge too. And you're on about Goth Fest there. Well, that would be perfect. I would put this Whitby Goth Fest not too far away. Go on there and I can come and see you play. Or someone someone from the Northeast or in Leeds put something together.
We're playing actually Leeds next month. Yeah.
Next month was that in Leeds? Right. I'll come see you. It's not far away from here. Yeah. It's on. Yeah. All right. Let's do it. Yay! Get excited again. It was just such a perfect way to round the EP, because it's got that dark emotion in there. It's got, again, sometimes when you can hear like something that isn't heavy, and I don't mean this in a bad way here or patronizing at all, but it's still got that hauntingly like dark edge to it. And that's what the close has to me with the EP. And then that's why, I'm not just saying this, I went back and listened to it again. I thought, I want to see if I have the same reaction, and I did. And then I did again. It's not an EP, I feel. You know, you get some bands and you get to it, and sometimes it can be not that the music's bad, but it hasn't grabbed you enough, and you think, right, I'm going to move on from this one. I didn't get that impression, and I'm very new to your band. You know, I literally only recently, you know, when I reached out to Paul and Chris for interviews, that's how I discovered you. And I thought, man, you know, and I'm genuinely glad I did, because it has that I love that with Doom. And goth stuff as well, like Draconian. I like that, you know, they do that. And there was a band from Hungary, I don't know if they're still active, and they sang in Hungarian, and it was kind of a mix of goth, folk, and doom music all put together. And man, it was really beautiful because it went through those areas. I just wondered, has anybody else mentioned that? You know, do you feel other people have caught the feeling and essence of what you were doing with the EP?
Yeah, I think it's come out in a couple of reviews. It depends. It obviously depends with, you know, what people listen to. That's why I said, like,
where they come from.
It's kind of cool. It's kind of weird because we don't write like normal stuff. If you know what I mean.
We don't write normal stuff normally.
And because we're so, because we listen to a ton of music, a ton of different music, all sorts of stuff. We don't just listen to metal. We don't just listen to goth. We'll listen to country. Like, we really enjoy like southern country. The Gothic southern country stuff.
That country is fantastic.
American Gothic, as they also call it.
So we listen to a lot of that. We listen to jazz. We listen to all sorts of things. And I think that's just from, you know, I think from being a musician to run, you know, it's a lot. You tend to do that. If we just listen to music, you probably don't tend to do that much. I don't know.
I don't know. Like, because growing up, we listened to all sorts of stuff.
So because we listen to so much stuff. I forgot where I was going with this now.
So it's all right. I do all the time. Don't worry. You're on the right show.
But yeah. So, and because we tend to. Because we're influenced by so many things, it just comes across in what we do. So people will hear stuff in our music that they hear stuff that we go, wow, that's interesting. Like, it wouldn't have crossed our minds that's what you've picked up. But I think because there's so much stuff that goes on, and we play a lot with like noise and things. Like, we're not a quiet band, just like by no means. But we got a lot of like noises and things going on, and because you got all these things going on at the same time, there's like a little space where they all kind of clash together and make yet another noise that you don't even know is there. And because we write live, so like Brett doesn't write a guitar track and like send it to me and then I write the drums. We write together in a room. This room, which you can see is not heavily soundproof. So so the noises that we get out of like all the weird and things that are in here that kind of clash together just create different sounds. And so you can hear things in our music that maybe we just don't. It's and I think that's really cool. Like, it's art, right?
Yeah, it is. And it gets back to when you mentioned you know, that primal essence, something that is uniquely real, that hasn't been too how would I say this? I guess put through an artificial process in a sense. There's that realness. It's drawn from everything, and that is really cool in your answer about drawing from other music. You know, this is something I like to talk about with bands when we're doing deep dives and artists in general. You know, what inspires you, where you're drawing from. You know, instead of being someone, I listen to band B and like, you know, okay, that's cool, but you know. What else? What else? And what my yeah. And you're definitely right about Southern Gothic. It's so funny. It's so funny when you're no longer an elitist. That's how I'm going to say it. I'm not going to sit here and say I wasn't the quintessential metal elitist. I was getting into death metal. nothing else is real. Death metal is law.
You were not allowed to listen to anything. But what do you mean, Pantera? That's not metal. That was like when they first came out, right? And it was like not death metal. I got told off for that. I was like, oh, I kind of like this. Oh, you can't like that. That's not metal. And it was like, you're 18, so you listen to everybody else.
Yeah. It's like you go through that process. You start on, I guess, what are the mainstream bands? And I'm not saying all mainstream bands suck. There's many I like now. Now I don't care. So, oh, you know, Truth, you like this band. I'm like, so what? I don't care. I listen to everything.
You have your gateway bands.
Like it. Yeah. You have like those gateway bands, and then all of a sudden, when you get in that underground, it's like, oh, you're the manifestation of everything underground, and it's like, nothing else is real. You're a poser, and then all of a sudden, when you realize I'm going to stop being an a-hole, to be honest. And you open up to all this other music. It's one of the most I'm just trying not to get preachy about it here, I guess, but it's such a gratifying and awakening experience, because then you realize, look, there is so much out there that I was closing myself off to, or that people I was hanging around with, you know, I was letting them influence me, closing myself off, blah blah blah. I mean, of course, it's as you mature and open up and all that. So now you know, I try and this is why I made this show multi-genre, for everything, not just metal. And one question I'm always asked, and I've said this, I think, to every guest who's been on the show so far, I often get asked in emails, or they'll come online, they'll be a bit, and they'll go, do you have to like our music for us to come on the show? And I'm like, no. And like, they're shocked. They're like, so you will still talk to? And I'm like, yeah, of course. I mean, if I like your music, it's a bonus, but it doesn't matter. I'm interested in what you do, why, where you draw your inspirations from, whether I like your music or not. That is absolutely irrelevant. It really doesn't matter. And it's wanting to put something positive out there, that if there's anyone who's going through that similar experience, or is maybe a little bit afraid of not looking true if they open up to the music, I'm like, oh, that's bullshit, man. It really is. None of that matters. They're rife with it.
Which black metal? Oh, my theory about black metal and surf rock. Okay, so
this is an interesting one.
I love raw black metal. Okay, I absolutely do. I love surf rock.
Yeah.
Take the distortion out of black metal, and you've got surf rock with shrieking vocals. It's exactly the same format. It's exactly the same guitar techniques. The drums are a little bit more angry, but it's literally really nasty surf rock.
That's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. I can upset metalheads sometimes, because they'll say, do you like black metal? Even though I'm like, not really. I'm not really into it. I guess some black and punk, black and thrash, the odd black and death. Sometimes that's about it. And just say, look, I've tried. Believe me, I just can't get it. But I would still talk to one of those bands. I mean, as long as they're not a hateful band, because that's sadly the bad experiences I've had in that scene. But Pauline, have you heard of the band Ghoultown? Have you heard of them?
Ghoultown. The name rings a bell. I'm terrible with band names, by the way. I like what I like, and I know why I like it. But
She comes to the album, what song? I like that bit.
I'm a bit like that with people. I don't remember their names, but I remember their faces, because and I'm a bit like that with bands. So but there's certain names that will ring a bell, and that does ring a bell.
Yeah, they're interesting, because they do a mix of like psychobilly, bit of metal, bit of punk rock and country, all in one, all undead themed, a lot of it as well, like the Undead Wild West, I guess. But the guy Lyle in the band, I think he's an author as well, and does a lot on like these, you know, mysterious creatures, you know, chupacabra, all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty fascinating. It's funny, because the reason I'm mentioning this with Southern Gothic is country is usually, from my experience of talking to people in music hall, is the only music that seems to be universally hated by everybody. Then recently, thanks to it getting out there through various PR companies, we're discovering Southern Gothic, people are like, hang on a minute, this is actually different. This has got something to it. And I'm like, it's probably closer back to the original country. I know there's been outlaw country as well, has a bit of the horror vibe, but it's like you were saying about listening to different music, there's an underground for everything. There is, wherever it is, music and film. And I think if you're any kind of musician worth the salt, filmmaker, writer, you're in the, you run a theatre play or anything, you're an actor. You've got to look at all of these other areas, because that's how you can come up with something unique, a fresh new idea. See what you can take from that scene to put a martial arts spin in it. Like MMA, we take what works from one, combine it with another, instead of I'm just going to go down the gym and do low blocks every night and then go at the end of it. Yeah, great. That really works. Anyway, probably upset a sensei somewhere now.
At least your sensei's not here.
Yeah. The fan list just grows now. But yeah, that was really refreshing to hear, because I think doing that, and as well doing it naturally, not coming out in the music, as I was saying, I think that can create some of the most beautiful and dark interpretations going for anything, or even if someone doesn't want to write dark, whatever they want to write. So that's good to know, and especially from a band, instead of, no, you only must listen to this, you must only listen to this scene, you're not true enough, blah blah blah, keep it true, I've been true since 10 AD or whatever.
I guess he doesn't want to hear a recording of Rocks in a Dumpster.
Hey, go on. Tell us the story behind that one then, right?
Oh no, it was years ago. Pauline and I were joking about starting a black metal project. Sorry, it wasn't a dumpster. It was your washing machine. She had a twin tub washing machine, and we were going to get Rocks, throw that in there, use that as a percussion track, and then record in South Africa, you have these ice cream vans that have this terribly tinny, high-pitched, piercing recorded like melody.
That's really a little bit distorted.
Yeah, it's a little bit distorted.
It's like an ice cream truck,
but it's there's no fidelity in it whatsoever. We actually think it's a cassette slightly stretched. So we'll take this as a percussion track, we'll sample that on top, and then we'll just get like some random person having a do in the street, and we have a black metal album.
I can see the album cover now. It's someone there with ice cream on the front. Corpse paint. That the creepy smile and gone underneath. Yeah. There you go. Let me know on that one, if that would make a show for sure. So today is ice cream and black metal. Oh man.
Some of our brilliant ideas from back in the day.
Yeah, no. I'll try and go back on topic for a short while. My fault. I've had a habit of doing this. So Reflections, I'm guessing the title Reflections, as there's covers on the EP, as you rightly reminded me and corrected me on there, even though I listened to it 5 times, forgot that obvious one. So is Reflections all about reflecting on those songs and paying homage to those bands from the cover as well? Have I just completely made a mess of that?
No, it is pretty much bang on. It was we were reflecting on Ghosts of St Augustines, looking back at it, bringing it forward, and then also reflecting back on songs, well, 2 of which had influenced us, and the 3rd of which we just had fun with.
Yeah.
And the next, you mentioned that you were, I think you said, were you halfway through writing the next album?
Almost complete writing it, yeah.
Oh, so not to spoil it too much, I appreciate, I have to keep some of that under wraps now, but is there similar themes on this one that you've carried in your music, or is this, or is it
musically? There's definitely relationships thematically, if I can put it that way. Lyrically, it's possibly a bit darker.
Ooh.
Musically, it's possibly a bit darker, actually.
Yeah, it's a little bit more raw, I think, than probably what might be on Reflections.
Yeah, it's definitely more raw than Reflections. You can hear, if you listen to, you'll be able to hear where it comes from. If you've listened to Sisyphus and Reflections, you can hear the lineage. We are very good at not saying too much. This is the politician answer, and that's what you're going to get.
Polytricks.
I can neither confirm nor deny I touched that screen.
Yeah. Can't even tell you what day it is.
Yeah. It's quite cohesive, because Sisyphus was almost the album art was very much a duality. And the album was very much a duality.
Yeah, Sisyphus, which was our first album, was very much a point in time. So it was when we basically when MEDEA was resurrected, when we moved to the UK, and we were just jamming, and we started writing songs, and then we started writing more songs, and then
oh shit, we've got an album.
yeah, we just had this album, and we were like, oh my god. But yeah, so Sisyphus for us is about a point in time. So it's not maybe as cohesive in terms of like styles, but it still has that thread. It will always have that thread, even going into Reflections. You can hear that it's us, because there's a core essence. There's a core essence. So it'll always be dark, and it'll always be, when I say heavy, I don't mean rah, slump heavy. I mean, I mean, it's for us sometimes, like doom is very heavy compared to like
funeral doom, where you've listened to some, I've listened to some funeral doom, and it's just taken away my will to live. I feel like something has crushed my soul, and that's heavy music. So Sisyphus for us is like a point in time. That is because that's what an album is. It's a record of a place at a point in time. So for us, that's that. And I think it was kind of our introduction to our band, ourselves within as musicians as well, because that was I only started learning to play drums when I moved here. So I used to play bass and play keys. Right. So I was playing drums. I got onto drums. Brett went mainly onto guitar. So he is also we don't have a bassist, but we're both bass players.
Duality.
So I think it was. I think it's if you had to. It's almost like almost growing into the band, and it was kind of where we were trying to get comfortable.
It's very much what a first album is. It's where you start painting what you are with big broad brush strokes.
To explain it that way. So, but and also like our influences, and I suppose our experience, the things that we were going through at the time when we wrote Sisyphus as well, very different to the circumstances that we're in now. So I think the music does change ever so slightly in terms of us finding our feet, where we're most comfortable.
Where we're most uncomfortable, because some of the stuff we're trying is
but so I think that's pretty much.
I know what you mean. I don't know if Gaz does. He looks confused.
No. I'm listening intently because I'm very interested.
But I mean, also as you progress as a band, and you become better at your craft. In a way. And ultimately, a band shouldn't release the same thing over and over again. And there's a few big bands that I'm looking at with meaning when I'm saying that. Please stop releasing the same album. You've done it once. It was really good. I don't need 7 more of them. Thank you very much. But you shouldn't move too far away from the core of who you are as well.
That was a perfect way to put it, because sometimes, I was mentioning past struggles with elitism, I guess. And now I'll say, like you said, Brett, we're always evolving whatever we do. And the more you practice, and the better you become at that craft through experience, whatever it is. Hopefully that will be the case with my interviews, and questions are a work in progress. But anyway, I digress. I can't help it, man. I just get that naturally hyper and excited, and when I hear things on, like you've both been talking, things I've got in common with people, that's it. I just get more amped, and I'm like, oh man, this is fantastic, and I immediately hone in on them. It's like, it's just natural. I'm exactly the same. I don't come up for air sometimes, if you haven't noticed. So anyway, I'm forgetting where I was going with this, and we're talking about evolving. Yeah, it's best not to stay stagnant, because then that's how bands can lose interest in what the music they're playing, and then that can come out in albums. There's been notable big bands, one in particular I'm thinking of, where it's almost as if that album's been recorded just for necessity, and there's no soul in there. There's nothing there, and you're just like, man, I can hear the dollars in this, and that's it. I'm not against band, I'm not against bands making money at what they do, because anyone here who would say, oh, that band's selling out, I'm like, come on, man, if you've got the chance to be paid to do what you love, whatever it is, you are going to do it. Don't sit here and say, and it doesn't mean you're selling out. You can still make the art that you enjoy. It's just then be careful who you sign with. If it's someone who's going to change the complete nature of you, which refers to what you said, Brett, where if someone moves too far away from the path, there's nothing wrong with evolving. You've got some bands, is it Crematory, the German goth? I think they were death metal early, now a bit more goth. There was Atrocity, I think, as well. Kind of went more industrial. There's nothing wrong with that. It's still heavy. It's still dark. But like you said, if you move too far away that way, it's pretty much a different band in all but name. Then I often think, well, why don't you just make that album under a different name and say, look, this was our Oriental metal album, for example, our folk album, whatever, under that name, and then you've got your other one, rather than then people are so confused, having migraines to figure, okay, what's happening here? So
I mean, there are one or two bands I can think of which at one point in their life you never knew what you were going to get, like Ulver right in the beginning. I mean, their first album was just nasty black metal, and then it was folk. And then they went back into black metal, and they released like almost a dance album. Was like, but it was that you could see it was the same band. They were just like, oh no, now we're playing with these instruments. I mean, so some bands can pull it off.
But they didn't. It still was them. It wasn't a case of they went, oh, this is popular, now we're going to do this thing. I think that's the other. And that we've noticed in a few bands. It's like, oh, this is the latest in genre, so now we're just going to incorporate this in. It's like. You can do it if you mean it, but don't do it because you think it'll sell records.
It's if you I think, as you rightly said, if you retain some core essence of who you are, some bit of spirit, even if it's going into electronic music, it shines through. You can still hear that, like, that is the band, but they are doing this genre now, or this taking it, but I can still hear that essence of them, and there's nothing wrong with that, because otherwise, look, hey, some people, if that's what they want to do and they just want to make that kind of music, say the same one, all power to them. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't love you love raw black metal, and this is interesting. I love raw hardcore. I really do. There's something about the energy in it that grabs me. The rawer the better. And I've noticed it seems to be probably similar, I imagine, with black metal. And this is going to sound so strange, because people are thinking, hang on, this dude says he's not the biggest black metal fan, but he loves raw hardcore. And there's a similar parallel, because people either love it or hate it. And they often say to me, it's just noise, or the songs are too short. It's like a minute of like one guy shouting and screaming. But there's many bands that still they still make the same music in a way, but it's still a little bit of a different change up, or they might be better playing at that music. There was a fantastic punk band from London. I think there's two at the US called Crown Court, a bit more of an oi band, but they're really good. The Flex, UK hardcore, fantastic as well. It's not closing yourself off to ideas as well. It's keeping yourself open. And I think that's a good thing. If I like the cover of Venom Warhead, which I wasn't aware of, but when I was mentioning the other elements I could hear in that, and I was like, man, this is brutal stuff. And you're right, Pauline. I was the same. I used to think, oh, right, if it's not death metal, if it's not fast and blast beats, or if it's not grindcore, it's not heavy, that's too slow. And then you can get a band like Conan that do both. They've got the slow, heavy tap fields, and then they've got the really, they've got the fast tracks as well. And people forget that there's even the closing track on the EP. Yes, okay, that's more to me, you know, Nightmare the Dream Time, it's more goth rock, but it's still got that heaviness, that dark feeling. It grabs you straight away, and I want to listen to this. So it's the end of my rant. You can get a word in edgeways. Yeah.
I just wanted to go back to when you're on about Pauline's angry vocals in Warhead.
Yeah.
You could feel the anger. I think that might have been directed at me because she had no idea she was doing backing vocals up until I went, "Oh, you need to do backing vocals on this." And Pauline went in the studio, and Pauline went, "Yeah, I'll practice." I'm like, "No, now."
Well, yeah.
When we started putting it together, because obviously we rehearse before we go into the studio. We're not one of those bands that wing it. Yeah. So of course, when we were rehearsing it, no one told me I was doing vocals.
I didn't hear it until we were in the studio, and I'm like, "Hang on, I need your voice in this."
And then when the studio comes running out, he's like, "Right, you go here to do vocals." I was like, "What?" He goes, "What's this?" So I was like, "Okay, well, I need to practice so I know where to come in, you see." And he goes, "No, just
do it. You'll be fine."
I was like,
hey, it worked, and it's got that knack.
It was great. It was really. I mean, that's the thing. It came across really raw, which is
it did.
I needed.
Yeah. So that's also what happens in the studio, by the way. So yeah. So when you ask us about the new album, we just tell you we haven't recorded it yet. So
we have the drawings.
We have the drawings.
The painting will come.
So who knows what could happen? To be fair.
Again, that's one of the best methods, though, as we've been saying. Coming from within, naturally manifesting. So I think that's great because, I can see where someone would say, yeah, it's nice, I guess, to prepare and have a plan sometimes, but I think you can go a bit too far down that path, and then it doesn't have that freedom. It doesn't come out, and you can hear that where if you go in naturally and see what comes out. And this is a point I wanted to pick up on, and you mentioned earlier, Brett. It's amazing the different answers I get to the writing process. You know, some people will say, right, yeah, we play the music first. We always do that. Then we write the lyrics or the song titles after. And then I've had others people say, yeah, we write everything first and then we try and go and play. But I think you're the first guest that I've been on so far. Apologies if I've forgotten to any of the bands that have said the write together where you are now and those ideas go back and forth. That is good. That is good chemistry, good relationship, especially in a band, and how you can go back and forth, edit. We're going to take that bit out, refine this, whatever. That is damn productive and damn awesome, in my opinion. So hearing that,
sometimes it's really difficult,
right?
Because what one of us might think is a good idea, you put it together, and it turns out to be not such a good idea.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes we do get stuck. We get very stuck, and then we have to play Tom Petty for about 3 hours.
Yeah, we call it birthing an elephant. So some songs are really easy and they come together really quickly, and then other ones is just you go backwards and forwards. And something's not right.
You know it's there, but there's something that's
nail
not
it.
right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just, it's the way that we've always played, even in other bands. I mean, in SA, we didn't do this whole record here and then send it there and then they do a thing. No. It's just not the way that I've worked in bands. And even when because I played in a black metal band in SA for a while, and when I was playing keys, I used to have the guitarists have to come to my house because that's why I went on to drums. Not very good at hearing key tones, so I had to learn theory. Rhythm, fine. But yeah, so I used to have to get him to come to my house, and then basically I'd sit with him while he just played the track on his guitar, and then I would sit and write my keyboards around him, and that's how it always works. So I find it quite weird for someone to send us a track. But in saying that, full stars from Final Coil did that with us in lockdown, where he sent us a track and we ended up writing one of his tracks, part of his collaboration.
Which I went on a rant on about social media.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he mentioned that. I was going to ask you about that actually, because he mentioned on the show I did with him about the collaborative track, and he mentioned yourselves, and I said, oh, the due on actually. I said, in I think about a week or something like that. So yeah. Ranting is healthy from someone
really healthy, yeah.
It's a way of detoxing, I find, and I'm one of those people when I come out the movie theaters and I'm always ranting, and my face pretty much going to upset people again here. The Star Wars Disney trilogy, it wasn't so much of a rant, it was kind of a state of disbelief, shock, horror. That really was true horror, because my face coming out of those was just.
But were they worse than 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah,
and suddenly taking all the mysticism away and making it scientific.
Yeah, I think there were, which I never thought I would say. I never thought there'd be something worse than the Phantom Menace. Apart from
actually, I know it wasn't was it the second one? What was that called again? Where that was basically it's great if you watch every second chapter and it's this great movie in space. Or if you watch every first chapter, it's a soppy love story.
Yeah.
So.
We needed. I mean, I've said this to look. There was a few things I liked in the sequel trilogy. Kylo Ren's lightsaber, and that's about it.
I mean, I enjoyed The Force Awakens purely from it was a complete regurgitation of A New Hope.
It really was. Yeah.
Sometimes I just want to watch a movie to be entertained, and that didn't check that box. It entertained me.
The Force Awakens, even though I'm not a fan of it, is the best out of those out of the sequel trilogy for sure. And then it really does go off the rails. But yeah, I'm the same. I watch a lot of Asian action movies purely for that purpose, to be entertained, for escapism. I remember a quote from someone once said to me, "Dude, you're just watching people shooting at each other and fighting with katanas for 3 hours." I'm like, it's entertainment. It's fantastic.
Yeah. I used to watch the old kung fu movies purely for that, just because they were so out there, but they were just immensely entertaining.
Yeah, but then you can get something where a more adult dark sci-fi, where it's got that suspense and mystery to it, particularly if it's sci-fi horror as well, where it holds you for the entire movie, and there might not even be that much action to it, but it's got that atmosphere, and there's that mysticism. Not mysticism. There's that mystery to it, and that menace.
Moon was particularly good at that for a sci-fi.
Yeah.
Even you enjoyed Moon.
Yeah.
I mean, I want him. I've talked about this all the time. I wanted to do like a adult 40K movie, which I know Henry Cavill's supposed to be working on a series in Warhammer 40,000. I've just been saying to people, but are they going to allow that on the big screen, where that entire universe is literally everyone trying to obliterate each other all the time? Yeah. It's so dark and gothic, and I thought, I just, apart from the budget would be insane if it was live action, and they would have to try and make one set good for it to sell to the public, or I can't see them.
The best way you can approach doing a 40K movie is doing The God, because the budget needed for the Marines and that is just ridiculous. You have to do God, because then it's just a war movie, a trench war movie, and then happy days.
And they're actually more interesting because they're just regular folks, the guards. So yeah, definitely. So getting back just onto your music for a bit. Sorry about this if I've upset your fans. Like, God, I did like the video as well. You mentioned a little bit earlier for the Ghosts of St Augustines, and again, it had it kind of reminded me of those Hammer horror movies as well. Had that tone to it. So I just wondered, have you started to work on any videos for the new album, or is that a little bit premature at the moment?
There's one that's kind of in an incubation period, as in we threw some words out. We did. I threw some words out at Chris Chris wrote those words down.
Oh.
They're in the official minutes. minutes. But yeah, we can't really divulge too much on it, but we have got some idea originally. Well, not originally. We've got some initial ideas for videos for the new album. A video for the new album. Let me try that again.
Oh, that sounds...
You're not going to get much more out of us about the new album than this, guys. These are my cards. They're not even close. They're inside my chest.
Yeah. Oh, it's all right. I won't pry. I try to be delicate when I ask things like that. I've made the faux pas before on shows. Like I don't know who it was I talked with about this, and there's a friend of mine who trying to get back on the show when his schedule's open, and he's in the band Rune Scarred, who are in Texas, kind of like proggy-ish metal, I guess. And he has his own indie film company as well, and he does like a lot of horror shots. And I've learned to behave myself since then. When he sent me this horror shot, man, it was awesome. I think, what was it? Now I can't even remember what it was called. It was Death Date, something like that. And this guy, I remember he goes on a date and the girl turns out to be a demon, and then somebody else comes who's a demon, and they kind of turns the tables on these horrible people who would think that they'll lure these folks into a trap to do not very nice things, and then these people turn out to be actual demons. And he sent me it to review, and I remember I got that excited watching. I was like, "Oh yeah, man, this is awesome! This happens! Like the guy was with him, we managed to just save it because I just realized that in my hyperness, I've just virtually revealed the entire film, and it was like 15 minutes long. It's only a shot, and I was just like, "Oh man!" Thankfully, it was really cool about it, and it didn't spoil it too much. But that's one of the downsides with being naturally hyper. Sometimes you just blurt it out. For example, if you sent me a track that was unreleased one time, I must behave here, and I'd best not be live or something, because my reaction would be, "Oh yeah, they've done this, they've done that," and then everyone knows you weren't supposed to tell anyone about that yet. And yeah, it's a problem, and it's this. It can be sometimes a bit of an irritating problem from a writing standpoint, because you can be awake at night when you don't want to be awake. It can be like 4 or 5 a.m. and you're like, "I've got to write this down." I'm like, no, I'll wait another couple of hours. And then it won't leave, and then it gets worse and worse. And if I start writing whatever that idea is, you've wrote half a novel or whatever, and then like, I've just had no sleep now. So that's oh man. That's something that is a problem at times. And there was a point to this, and I've forgotten what that point was. I was generally going with it. It was something related to what you said. Oh well, it'll come back.
It's not only because people might inadvertently leak it, because you know what, we get excited, we get passionate about stuff, we talk about stuff we're excited and passionate about, and that's a good thing, because if you're into things, you're into things, right? Mm. But it's also, we don't want to give people an idea that turns out to be not what they hear. We like keeping it as vague as possible.
Yeah, I don't like to tell people. I suppose that's why I find it very hard to put things in a box. I suppose. Yeah. Obviously you have to go, what kind of music's this one? It's kind of like this. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
I like it when people, and I also like it for myself, to be honest, when they make up their own minds what they think it is. It's just without being too obvious. So yeah.
Totally agree, because you still want that bit of a surprise there for people, not to give too much away. And I like, if someone, before doing this, I used to be a DJ, and I wrote some reviews, and I always say to people, if I ever wrote a review, whatever style of music it is, doesn't matter if it's dark, heavy, or doesn't matter. The way I always liked to do it was listen to it with no distractions, absolutely nothing around me. And I mean by that literally me and the music. I don't want to hear what anybody else's reviews are, thoughts, anything at all, because I want to listen to that fresh what I can hear, what feelings it brings out of me, what I can hear, and then write about it based on that, rather than say I'm going to write some kind of thesis and like, you know, oh yeah, it's this is the most no, I want to do it like you said, the music natural, so people then know it's real. Yeah, this is what it's heard. And it's the same with how I do this show. Yes, of course we'll do deep dives on the music and go off topic a lot, you know, as been doing, but that's the way I want it to be for people, where we can come on, naturally talk in a conversation, rather than me sat, I know, with, you know, I know, let's say I've got my phone with this question on, so who'd be some of your favorite bands, blah blah blah, what's the most brutal whatever. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you would get people send you those questions, can you ask the band this if someone's around, and I'll ask them, because I'm not going to ignore, you know, that person. But sometimes when I'm asking it, I do think they must have heard this like 900 million times. and I cringe. You could probably hear the cringe in my voice if anyone's ever asked
you could see us twitch when we get visibly twitch when we get asked those. It was like when you got asked your favorite drummers, and then you ended up saying the Gumboot Dancers and Animal from the Muppets, and who else was it? Spoon Lady. These are my most influential drummers, like Go for a Tangent.
Those Japanese
like taiko drummers.
Yeah, taiko drummers. Yeah.
So, well, what you know, just to purposely put a plug in for Reflections, reflecting back on one of your answers about drawing from inspirations from the bill. I'll send you the bill in the post anyway. UPS. But drawing from those external inspirations, real world sources, and being natural with it again, I just think it's the best thing you can do in any kind of band. And I forgot my point. There was a point with it. I'm going to make a rantcore band all about getting too excited and then forgetting, you know, where you're going with things. Coming soon, one-man band, just release. And I'll do a noise course, something, 15 seconds for each song. That'll do it.
If you manage to lose the point within that 15 seconds, I'll be totally. Bit
like my essays at uni. I used to like, there's a point in there somewhere. It's your job to find out what that point is. You know,
I have justified my answer and other answers, and then I've drawn you a squirrel because there was a lovely squirrel I needed to draw.
Yeah. This squirrel was around at this time or whatever, and I know, man.
It's amazing where the brain goes, right?
It is, yeah, totally. It is. Yeah, my mind goes off topic all the time, and then things can. I'm one of those people as well where things just can pop into my head at any moment, and I just start laughing, or I have to blurt it out. And of course, people who don't know you well then think this guy has issues. It's a bit weird, and it can be literally anywhere. To quote one of my friends, Ross, who runs his own channel as well, will often say, Gazman can spam you at any moment with whatever he likes, whatever he's listening to, he will spam you with it there and then. It doesn't matter what it is, like we're saying dark techno to doom. They're like, oh, dude, you've got to check this. It's always funny doing that to people who aren't metalheads as well. That's always cool. So you mentioned you're playing Leeds as well next month. Yes. So could you tell us a bit about that, where you're playing, who's on the lineup as well?
Okay, so we're actually we've got 3 gigs left this year. So end of the month, we're playing Via Fossa in Nottingham with Hertzfall, who are they're a post-punk band, but the vocalist has got a very 90s vocal style. Interesting band. They got some good tunes them, and then we're playing with our friends in Chaos Bleak, who we hear later Sisters of Mercy and that kind of vibe. So it's a goth ball. And then of course us, and then we're playing with Chaos Bleak again and St Lucifer, who are black metal gay disco, and that genre sums them up. They are elements of black metal, they're elements of disco, they're elements of synth pop, and they're just this amazing car crash of a spectacle that just make this brilliant music. And so we're playing with them, Chaos Bleak, in Leicester at the Metal Monocle on the 13th of October, and then we're playing, I think it's the 14th of October at the Fox and Newt, and it's us, Chaos Bleak, St. Lucifer, and an act called Dober Woman, who I would love to be able to say something about, but I've not managed to find any of their music online.
I knew a band like... Sorry, go on, bro.
No, so yeah, it's more of a little bit of a more gothy run, but yeah, it's going to be good fun.
Yeah.
I knew a band like that once who was so underground you couldn't find anything. It was a dude back when I used to do my radio shows, and he was from Italy, and he had his own hardcore band, and he would not release any of the music to anyone. I was very lucky that he'd let me play, and it was just one song, no more. I was the most paranoid individual I've ever met, and it's like, no, I don't want this to get too popular. I don't want to get on a too big a label and sell out all of this. Like, and I'm like, I get that, but do you want people to listen to your music and to like it, to have a little bit of a following? You've got to have something to show there. It's like, no. Didn't stay around too long after that, but.
That's like yet another crossover between hardcore and early black metal. It's like if you record it, you've sold out.
Yeah. How dare you let someone listen to it, isn't it? So the other thing, just a quick fire one. So since both of you emigrating here, has the British sense of misery and depression helped fuel your music as well?
I wouldn't go with helped.
Hindered, maybe,
we have to laugh at it a lot more, right?
Yeah, it's maybe that's why we're so confused. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, the UK was everything we thought it wasn't.
It is, yeah. It's not everything that we thought it was.
Yeah, it's everything we thought it wasn't. It's, yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think it's kind of weird because so my dad was English and obviously like his mum was English, and I think when you grow up with a parent that's grown up in a different country, because my dad only went to Africa like when he was in his 30s. So yeah, you kind of stop when you're young. You kind of stop building this picture of this place. This magical place where there's these cute little houses and people wander the streets and they're so quiet.
And you read Enid Blyton books.
And you read Enid Blyton books. Yeah. So you have this whole picture in your head of this place. And then then you move here and you realize, oh, hold on a minute.
Eddie G was right.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Oh wait, Little Britain's a documentary.
But yeah. So yeah, it's just taken it's taken a bit of getting used to, I guess.
Yeah. But to actually answer your question, no, I think we're just naturally miserable.
Yeah,
yeah. We're pretty jaded. We've been around in this earth for a long time now. Yeah.
With you both hailing from South Africa originally, I've got to ask. And I think the South African scene, both for metal, punk, and even hip hop as well, was a lady called Sarok, possibly South African. Sorry, I'm just randomly nerding out loud about various music I've heard from South Africa. Do you think the scenes now are getting more known throughout the world with some of the popular bands, or is it still, because it's always seemed to be a bit like the Indian metal scene, very, very small, very underground as well, where a lot of people still don't quite know about it?
I would have said back in our day, we didn't so much have a metal scene as we had an alternative scene. Yeah. It was like an all-encompassing thing.
Oh, God.
Because there was so few of us. It didn't matter if you were into goth or punk or like your or some strange hip hop or something. You all kind of hung out together because you didn't have anywhere else to go.
Yeah, it was it was very, whereas here it's kind of mixed, so you can have like a kind of in between. I mean, I know when I first got into alternative music when I was younger, it was either you listen to radio,
and
that was it, or you found.
Yeah, but it was either the alternative or the dance scene, and the alternative and dance scene kind of crossed over a bit
They
as well.
eventually crossed over.
Yeah.
It was when rave came in, and then there was like that mix between like the rave and the goth side. And
Yeah,
EBM, and then
Yeah.
came EBM. But even before that, it was kind of they listened to music on the radio, or you didn't. Literally, because you got to remember that Africa was also sanctioned.
Yeah,
It was under sanctions for a while. So I probably guess we're about 10, 20 years behind like Europe in terms of music and in terms of scenes, if that's what you want to call them. So the alternative scene was a combination of everything that really wasn't commercial. So, and the nice thing was they had specific places for that.
Yeah.
So you didn't have Joe's pub down the road who decided to have a metal night one night.
Yeah.
I mean, these pubs were catered for that. Those are the people that went there.
People who are into the scene, people who are into the music.
Yeah, and then you had your kind of commercial dance clubs and stuff on the other side, and that kind of made it nice because that's where you would go. That's where you met people. I wouldn't have listened to or got to know half the music that I listened to if I didn't go there and meet these people. And everybody used to share. You had to earn your stripes, obviously, for them to share because they're very protective. I was very protective. But and that's what it was like. But I think now with with social media and streaming and all that, those barriers are gone. And for me, it's about it's lost its special side. Like, you know what I mean? So you get protective over it, it becomes kind of special, and now it's like, oh well, anyone can just listen to it now, which it's just a bit. It's a what do you call it? It's like a double-edged sword.
It is a double-edged sword because you were asking about the South African bands, and back then that was your market. You never had. We didn't have labels. We didn't have any of that thing. But now with social media and the internet and being able to connect with people around the world, bands that we would have never had a chance of hearing all those years ago now have got a platform where they can get their music out. So in some ways it's easier for like the bands like from your Indian metal scene, the South African metal scene, your small third world countries. Like, I mean, I'm going to throw Ural, however you pronounce them. It's a Chilean doom band that plays panpipes, flamenco guitar and dry lung vocals, and they're one of the most incredible things I've ever heard.
Yeah,
never would have heard of them if it hadn't been for the internet.
Yeah.
And so that's the good side about it. As Pauline said, the downside about it is, well, there's a lot of shit out there now too.
Sorry, go on, Pauline.
Yeah, so but in terms of the South African scene, I think they've got a platform, but once again, you got to remember social media is the way that it works is obviously. You kind of have to know it's there to know that it's there,
because you got to know how to leverage it.
And so if you didn't know about it, unless it came up in something else that you were following, you wouldn't know about it. So there's still like kind of that discovery, but I think they've at least got a platform now, where they can do stuff. And we did actually, when in lockdown, we did a podcast with some of our old mates from the metal scene there to talk about it and stuff, but also just to try and basically build a little barrier between what happens in Europe and what's happening down in South Africa. Because I know when I played in bands down in South Africa, it's kind of weird that everybody knows about all these bands in Europe,
the equator,
and North America and stuff, but nobody really knows what goes on below the equator, and it's kind of weird for me. So so we did something around that just to try and get them, and we're in touch with a lot of bands there. So
there's a lot of good points in your answers there to unpack. There's kind of a similar parallel with Perth in Australia at the moment. It has a very small scene, and it's in the awkward part of Australia. They've got like the huge barren desert there, so they're a bit more cut off. So their scene, there's a few people I talked to from Perth, both metal, and there was a hip hop guy as well, and he said something similar to that. He said, we're kind of all thrown together here because it's so small. It's more like an alternative scene, like what you said, where it could be someone who could be stoner rock, metal, hip hop, drum and bass. It's just everything there together because it's small. And one of the positives when in the punk scene that I've noticed when I did a lot of radio shows for punk and hardcore, and I know this is the same for metal, but there was punk from places like Thailand, D-beat bands, crust bands, power violence bands, anarcho punk, everything. And people would support and listen, but it was interesting that sometimes it could be they were more known outside of their own countries than their own country.
Yeah.
And I used to always want to feature people from everywhere. And again, like you were saying, there was an underground for everything scene. There is a scene. It could be small, or maybe, like you said, alternative, but there is always somebody. I remember coming across a guy who did some, I think he was a, can't even remember the name, it was a grindcore band from Nepal, of all places. And that guy, to send me some of his music, walked so many miles just for an internet, to use the internet. And that was one of the most humbling things that, you know, I'd ever been told from somebody. And I was like, God, he's walked so many miles to send me tracks to the Northern Limey Idiot back to play his music. But as I say, it's keeping that open mind. It's always good to hear something different from another part of the world where they can bring in, say, a particular take, whether it's musically, creatively, whatever it is. And I think that's really interesting. And we're seeing that with some of these bands in metal at the moment, where they're using, say, indigenous instruments or bringing in things from the culture as well. Because, it's different, and it's something that's gone unnoticed before, apart from, say, Sepultura with Roots, etc. You've got alien weaponry now blowing up from New Zealand who've kind of been doing that same, and see the bands at Shepherd's Rain, I believe, but you're right, Brett, as well. The negative of this with the internet, it's great that we can find all of this music, we can find these movies we've never heard of, but then we can have oversaturation as well. And sometimes where it's not oversaturated with garbage, it can be come across a band and say, if you like band A, this is band A mixed with a bit of band B and band C and whatever. And then it can be, we've got 10 bands that just sound like the original band that these guys were influenced by. And it's not that the music is bad. It's just like, well, I'm not meaning this to be arrogant, but it's like, well, I may as well just go and listen to the original source because it just sounds the same.
We refer to them as the Wish version.
The Wish version, Guest singers, guest vocalists, the same band just with a difference.
I know exactly what you mean, and quite often we found like some of the labels are actually quite to blame for that as well, because now bands can do it on their own. Labels obviously don't have the budgets they used to, and also because physical media seems to have fallen away which is quite a sad thing. Labels will go, and you've seen it as well with the movie industry. It's like, this is safe, people like this, we'll churn out more of this.
So
and it becomes a commodity and not an art form, which is a problem. I mean, I'm longing for a movie that has a new plot coming out of Hollywood. You've used those same plots for the last 5 years. Please just give us another one. Doesn't have to be a good one, just another one.
Just something different. It even doesn't have to have their high-end budget. If someone would just take that risk or say, okay, we're going to give you, say, this set amount, and even if it's just focuses on one character, smaller scene, but we can get that idea, that story, that creativity. I mean, you can get some of the even in the horror movies, it can be where they haven't got the budget, so they're purposely playing to the suspense side where you don't see the creatures there right until near the end of something. But it works. It adds up the tension.
Perfect example of that.
Adds up the tension. And I'm just longing for somebody to do that instead of it remaining in this kind of. It gets back to your point about not staying stagnant as a band. I feel like Hollywood at the moment is creatively bankrupt. It's just endless remakes, endless reboots. Or we're going to do a spin-off series of, say, this movie. Okay, is there a point to it? Is it going to link somehow? Is there a story there? If not, then don't butcher the legacy. Just leave it alone.
Yeah, let sleeping dogs. But then again, is it Hollywood and the writers that are creatively bankrupt, or are they beholden to shareholders?
That's a very good point, and that could be that. And I could say that for WWE, where Vince McMahon, where that era is. Now he's no longer majority shareholder, I believe. So, will anything ever be different, or is it going to remain as this kind of popcorn version of wrestling? And I'll look to the indies, AEW, which lacks consistency sometimes with its booking. I'm going off topic and going into rants about various things. Sorry. I'll actually get back to it.
They're all related tangents. So.
Yeah. But I suppose if you already wanted to know what it's like, it would be get one of the bands. They'll tell you.
Yeah.
They've probably got a better idea than we do at the moment because we've been here for what
12 years. Yeah.
So lots of kind of changed.
I mean,
since then,
we know a promoter there who puts on I don't know if is he still doing Metal for Africa? Well, we used to put on a biennial festival called Metal for Africa. So he'd be an interesting chap to bring on your show.
Do you know, I remember now, definitely, when I talked with Des from Devil Speak years ago, and I'm sure it was him who told me, and this, we weren't on YouTube, this is back when I did the radio shows and like Shoutcast, internet radio and all that stuff, and I think he told me there was a guy who was making a documentary about South African metal. And this was about 10 years ago or so.
Sam Dunn did one. Yeah, because that was part of his. And there's another documentary, something Southern Cowboys or something along those lines. Which is on YouTube, and it's about the Botswanan metal scene.
Ooh.
Which is really interesting because we're talking about we say the Southern African metal and alternative scene was a minority. The Botswanan metal scene is the minority of a minority,
right?
And it's basically these African guys in the middle of the ghettos who are just into their metal, and they have this completely like African spin on the way they dress and the way they interpret the music, and that it's really, really fascinating.
Yeah.
For the life of me, I can't remember the name of it. It was something Cowboys. So, but if you look for Cowboys in Botswana metal scene, you'll find it, and it really is worth watching. Both of us have played with some of the bands that they mentioned on there, so it was actually pretty cool seeing them again, but like on YouTube.
So. No, I definitely will look that up. I find things like that really interesting anyway. I even watch stuff on even music I don't like. I like, I find a way how people create the ideas and bring them all to life. There's something about it, hence why Fed Up, it's open to everybody. So what, bit of a generic question here, but I am curious to what you both think. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you what some of your favorite bands are. I'm not going there. It's not quite as bad as that. I hope. I'm digging myself in a hole. So what advice would you... I'm going to ask you a loaded question as well.
Right.
So the first part is, what advice would you give to musicians now coming into the scene to keep and maintain their authenticity creatively and musically? And then the second part, which I'm going to have to come back to because I've forgotten my own. So answer the first one, please, and then I'll remember the second.
All right. From me, I would say that the rule book, and actually not even the rule book, the whole YouTube, this is how you play things, ignore that. Seriously, ignore that. I will go and watch I can go watch somebody on YouTube who plays an instrument, and I'll never want to play it because they have, what they don't show you is they may play it note perfect, beat perfect, to a click, and you go, and your brain and people's brains go, this is how you meant to perform it. No, they have rehearsed and rehearsed and rehearsed and spliced and edited that to the point it's perfect. It's not perfect. Music's not perfect. It will never be perfect. What makes music beautiful is the fact it's an imperfect art form created by people. So my advice is, ignore the rules and ignore the people who show you that doing it note perfect and beat perfect. That's balls. It's absolute balls. That's not what music's about. Right, my rant.
It's all right. No, you're very well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with them. And I also just think it's with anything though. If you're doing it from the right place, if you're doing it from here, with a little bit of this, but it doesn't all have to be up here. But if you're doing it from here, nobody can actually tell you anything.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that's how you feel. That's how you're playing your instrument. I mean, when I first wrote my first song on drums, you know, just started learning to play drums. It's very simple, but it works. We still play that song now. Might be a little bit, done better, but we still play the song now. So the song still exists. So yeah, it's just, and also I think it was the bassist from Belvedere actually that said this. He goes, when kids learn to run, they don't just walk until they can run. They try to run while they can still walk, and they stumble and they fall, but they get up and they carry on. And that was one of the things that really resounded to me, because of, it's quite nerve-wracking. I only started playing drums in my 30s. So I started late. I didn't start when I was 4. And it was one of the most nerve-wracking things, is to sit there and go, am I good enough? Am I good enough? Cares if you're good enough. If it works, and you just carry on playing, eventually something will click and something will fall into place. And it doesn't have to be perfect to start with either. So yeah, because I just find that really unnerving when people go, oh well, they play these things like Brett says, and they're not perfect all the time, and it's just like, well, you had to start somewhere, didn't you? It's a bit like your martial arts, isn't it? It's like, they didn't go and do spinning kicks in a day. Trust me.
Yeah, exactly. You learn the painful way. It's repetition. It's constant repetition, refining, and also with martial arts, you can spend years learning a discipline or learning a style when you're little, and then realizing when you become an adult, actually this style is useless. It was good for flexibility, keeping fit, and I'm not going to sit here and knock all martial arts. They all have the place. There's all elements in them. Like people say, we'll pop off at Tai Chi. Oh, well, Tai Chi, modern Tai Chi, not the original fighting form supposed to have existed thousands of years ago. Oh, modern Tai Chi, you can't defend yourselves, because there's been people, going around on YouTube's floors saying, right, I can take on a pro fighter, whatever, I do Tai Chi. Well, if you approach Tai Chi in that manner, of course you're not to be able to defend yourself. But if you think of it as a form of relaxation, stress relief, if you're injured and you can't train, well, Tai Chi is great because you are still doing something whilst you're recovering. So this is what we're saying. They all have their parts. Like, take the kicks out of Taekwondo and keep the kicks low. That will improve your flexibility, and combine that with Muay Thai is quite pretty deadly in that sense, because Muay Thai is incredible anyway. So yeah, I think like you were both saying, it's what naturally feels right, that passion, getting better with repetition. If you approach something, this has to be perfect, it won't. Fumbles can happen. It has during this show. I just did one 2 minutes ago. I had the question in my mind, well, both parts, and when I come to say the second part, it had evaporated. The same as, forgetting that the Warhead was a cover of Venom. And say, you should have looked. I just listened to it and looked at anything, and yeah, rightly so. But this happens in with anything, natural conversation. Life, right? Yeah, exactly.
It's a mess.
Yeah, exactly. It's not perfect. I did have a recent guest from Germany on, who was a guitarist who puts all his stuff up on YouTube, and I think he was telling me, like you said, he learned a bit of theory, I think. Apologies if I've forgotten, because it was a recent episode. I think he learned a bit of theory with a bit of self-teaching him, but he just puts the covers on there or shows what he's doing, and he plays in he's got his own band now, and he was in another one, a Black and Death band. But I know what you're meaning with those guys that have put videos out there and saying, right, you must play it this way, this is absolutely flawless. And you're right, there will be mistakes. And I think if you're saying you have to play it this way, well, if you're going to play it that person's way, it's not you. It's Ghostbiting. It's not you. You can take an influence or look, there's a positive spin and use that. Well, how do they do that? I'll learn from that and see what I can use from it. But you still got to do it yourself, or it's not you, it's not your expression. That's how
100%.
Yeah, it's how these, like I was saying earlier, how these probably some of these bands form that just sound like Band A, you know, and that's it. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, so obviously, if that's because obviously with cover bands or I suppose cover.
Oh yeah.
That's
cover
band. That's a whole different thing, but
that's another.
Yeah, but it's if you want to be able to do your own thing, and also it's so easy now to compare yourself to what you see, and that is just a slippery slope you don't want to go down.
I'd also like to add something to it. If you're a new musician, play with as many other people as possible. Don't do it by yourself. Music was one of our earliest forms of communication and celebration as a species. Yeah, could have been our ancestors hitting a rock against another rock and creating a rhythm, and that's where it started, and clapping and stamping. But it was always done as a group thing. It's not something that you practice on your own. Yes, sit and do your exercise in that, but when it comes to expressing, do it with somebody else. Just even if nothing ever comes out of it, just play with other people.
Yeah, I think that's what motivates me. I can't sit and play on my own. That's why we have to write in the band room. Practice and writing at the same time. But yeah, otherwise it's just, I don't know, personally for me it's quite boring, to be honest. I'm really crap at it. Some people are better at it, but I think for me I prefer to play with other musicians. I just get motivated and inspired by sound, and I need to feed off that. I need to feed off somebody else's sound to make my own, that they feed off. Like, that's how we rise. I'll make a noise and he'll feed off it, then he makes a noise and then I make another noise, and this is how it happens. So
that's where
I mean, that symbol you can see behind us on the kit over there that's sitting upright, there's a certain point where if my guitar is hitting a certain pitch and Pauline hits that cymbal, it actually sounds like somebody standing in the corner of the room screaming. You won't get that by practicing on your own or sitting and doing it digitally or however. You can only get that noise by being in a room when that actually happens.
Again, get that authenticity. There's for me, just in my understanding here, in that if you're playing by your own, I would do it, I guess, in a therapeutic sense. Right, I'm just going to see where I go with this. But then if I'm wanting to create some music, I would want to do what you were doing, bounce those ideas back and forth, see what we come up with and see where we go with this. I'm not going to knock any session musician, if that's what they want to do. There's nothing wrong with that, but I totally appreciate what you're saying. I am curious as well, the nerd in me. I know I still haven't remembered the second part of that question, so I'll randomly email you one time. Oh yeah, this was it. I'll tell you in Leeds. Oh, you remember that question? I forgot the other week.
200 years from now.
Yeah.
Wait for the BT engineer.
Yeah, name for a dark synth album, I think, coming up. The question I forgot. Anyway, who did the logo for the MEDEA project? Because it does have that Hellenic kind of appearance to it, just from what I can see, and I'm curious
on the banner there.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is the album art for Sisyphus.
Right.
Do I have one that's easily attainable other than your drum over there? No, this is going to be a trick. So that was done by Frederick Viddix, who used to drum for Marduk. He also does some illustrations, and we got him to do the cover illustration for Sisyphus.
Wow.
So you can't really see it that well, and it's going to be an absolute nightmare for me moving it. So
it's okay. I see it on your Bandcamp, and it's on the t-shirts as well. Yeah, and it just grabbed me because I thought it's kind of like a bit like one of those ancient Greek shields, and a bit with a bit of that imagery as well. And I thought it was quite cool. Do you have? I'll have to ask this delicately as well. Do you have any special merchandise planned for the next album, possible vinyl editions? I know you'll have the shirts and long sleeves. I just wondered if there's anything you're particularly planning. You don't have to, tell us exactly what that is, because it will really
we're very much in the we need to get it recorded stage.
Yeah.
So we're currently planning on where we're going to record it and who's going to engineer it.
Yeah.
We have got the album art done, so we've done that. So
nice.
and it's a very, very awesome piece of art. But once we've got a better idea as to when, then we'll start playing with merchandise ideas.
Yeah.
But yes, there will be merchandise.
Yeah. There'd be something wrong if there wasn't, wouldn't there? Of course there'll be merchandise. Yeah.
Because we're far too old to not release physically.
Yeah. Even if we just did one for us.
It'll still be a physical release.
And we were chatting about earlier off air as well, and I purposely referenced the music during our chat because I'm a nerd again. Would you both ever, again, generically obvious question, would you both ever be interested in doing a dark synth album yourselves, something like that?
We have threatened Imperative with the fact we might actually do a darkwave album a couple of times.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome.
It was a bit to see Paul twitch.
I mean, he'll be having a heart attack now. Don't encourage him, guys.
Because I'm sure you guys will sound like yourselves, and it's Paul going.
Yeah, we have played around with the idea because we listen to the stuff. You sit and listen to music and you go, oh, "That's really good." Like maybe that's something we could potentially do.
And
like,
there's some very cool ideas
and stuff like that. So it's different. It's
I mean,
totally.
There may be elements that sneaks its way into stuff we're writing in future.
Yeah.
You can see synthesizers behind me. I'm not good at playing them, but they're there.
Yeah, that's why I thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah. No. We play with. At the end of the day, it's the sound that best paints the song. Again, going back to your question about advice to give musicians, always serve the song.
Mm.
And that is really important. And again, that it's like with this, if I write something and it doesn't sound right on guitar, it doesn't sound right on whatever, but it sounds right on synthesizer, then that means the synthesizer is the album, the instrument for that track. It's because we're serving the song. So,
but we did that with Phil's. So the song that we did for Phil's collaboration album. So when he sent us a track, I tried writing the drum tracks around it with acoustic drums, and I just really struggled with it. So I said to Brett, well, let me put it down on electronic drums, just on digital drums, and then what I can do is then I can just transpose it back to acoustic drums, because it never really crossed my mind to just do this digitally.
Mm-hmm.
And when we started putting the digital drums on, we actually like, this is completely fine. Like this works.
We worked inside the box.
And then so I was like, well, I'm not going to do this on acoustic because I just don't have it's not a much style to do what we did digitally on an acoustic set. So we kept the digital drums, but then we started putting in other things. So then we started putting the bleepity bloops and then we started just creating this
working
song
with textures,
and we started we ended up writing the whole thing digitally. So
no,
there was a bit of bass, wasn't there?
No, I put it was bass. I put acoustic.
Yeah, it was a bit of electric bass on there, but like that was about the only non-digital instrument that went into there. And then we did the vocals on that. So yeah, it's totally not out of our remit and to not.
At the end of the day, we're going to play with everything that's anything and everything that's available to us. I mean.
Yeah, I mean when I went into because I had to have a plate taken out of my arm, and I was worried they might screw my arm up, and I was like, well, what happens if I lose my arm? What am I going to do? So we actually went and we bought like a little, what is
that? Little Novation performance pads, because then Pauline could play finger drums.
So I actually sat there I practiced playing finger drums just in case I lost my arm and I couldn't play drums anymore. And then we sat there with a keyboard, and I was like, actually, this really works because then there's like sounds.
You preferred playing the drums on the keyboard than
Yeah.
on the notation pad, yeah.
But so like, yeah, so this is what we do. We just we just sit around and mess around with stuff.
You know, the good thing as well, if the title of the band, the MEDEA Project, is, yeah, I know you've got the dark heaviness there, but if you want to ever expand into that music or anything else, and I know we were saying you don't move too far much away from the core or become something else, well, the name as well kind of can go with that progressive forward-thinking experimentation where we are going to do this, we're going to move into this area. I mean, I'm relatively new to, darkwave, dark techno and everything, but I've been so interested in it recently. And yeah, there's some metalheads who I've chatted to, like, no, we just don't get it. I mean, there's Zardonic, who's got very popular in recent years. For me, his sound's got a bit too soft for me now. I prefer his earlier. It's getting a bit too commercial now. But I've said to them, I've said to people, if you go and look at dark techno, look at the song titles, it's obvious people from extreme metal. It's all influenced by it, and some of it is just as dark, nasty, and a different kind of heavy. And then I'll say, look, do you like sci-fi? Do you like horror? It's like a kind of futuristic, dystopian escapism, I guess. And some of it, the things they do. I mean, there was one. I think I mentioned them off air. Probably the guy Mobius, and there was this. I think it's a song called "Hunger," and it's like it's a girl more or less narrating the track, and it's just her like almost like spoken word poetry in a way, and she's just speaking calmly, but yet it goes with the beats. The whole feel of it is so sinister, and the way it starts. And yes, it's not the head. Not in the sense the heaviest or the fastest, but it's patiently builds up and slow, and there's something about it grabs you. And this is the perfect excuse for me to plug your own release, Reflections, because I heard that in the second song, the first song, the opening, and the close, because that had that same effect. And it was throughout the release. There's that patient build up, the heaviness in the right places, the clean vocals, the back and angry vocals, and Brett said, right, you've got to do this for me now. It's all there, and I could hear it, and that too, as a listener, that just taught. And if it's someone like me who's got that imagination, it just grabs you and you just want to stay with it. So it encompasses it perfectly, and probably given Paul a heart attack now. That's right, guys. Go and encourage them to do darkwave. It's like, I agree.
The coming, Paul. The band is coming.
Yeah. But it's. I know there's a lot more people now opening up to other music, but do you think this is something that we still come across sometimes, where there's people who can stay locked in that elitism, where they won't give other genres of music a chance, or no, this isn't quite metal, so I can't hear it, and how dare they mix electronic music with metal or whatever? Because I personally still come across those attitudes sometimes.
We come across attitudes where people go, but this isn't Doom because it doesn't sound like Black Sabbath. Well, My Dying Bride is Doom, and they sound nothing like Black Sabbath.
Exactly.
So there we have two polar points, and this sits somewhere in the middle, right? So gatekeeping bullshit.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, but
as long as it's done
right,
as long as it's done right, like we've heard mixtures of different things, and it's just it's like you have to question the
integrity
behind it.
But we've heard mixtures of things. We're going, that's really interesting. We get where you're coming from, and that's really cool interpretation.
Yeah.
Even if it's music, because there's certain musics there's certain types of music that we like more than others. But we'll still listen, we'll still hear something and we'll go, don't like that so much, but it's interesting that they've used that, and now suddenly it's created like this almost this little bridge, that you can go, well, now that starts to make a bit more sense.
Or you hear like the mixing of genres and go, that's actually really clever, and you pulled it off well.
There is a fine line.
It was something, I can't remember what it was, but we heard it a couple of weeks ago and we went, well, this sounds interesting. Listening to it, we're going, a label told them to do this because all of these things are popular.
I think that was a while ago. There was some weird.
And it was something we heard, and it was literally sounded like, well, this is popular, and this is popular. So we're going to just copy, paste that all together. We're not going to segue it to it or anything. It actually sounded like they'd literally taken cuts out of songs and just stuck them together in like Microsoft Sound Recorder back in
Oh God.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
It wasn't great. We're like, yeah, that's not even an E for effort. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all for multi-genre, but that sounds like a multi-genre turd.
That was like, we're gonna just throw all this stuff out because something might stick.
Yeah, and then it's not, again, like we're saying, it's lacking that soul, that authenticity. Yeah, it is, because it's for the wrong reasons, and it does show. Sometimes I can get emails with someone. And this really is a hip hop thing as well, where I'm an MC, I'm a hip hop, and because of the internet now, everybody thinks they can drop a bar, the line, and there's a certain projection, like with being a vocalist, you have to do in that scene as well, and breathing as well, pausing, or if you hear too much, every line. I mean, it sounds like someone's suffering an asthma attack whilst. And sometimes, man, you'll get this email come through, and it'll be, I'm an MC, and I hear it, and it's absolutely horrendous. Or they've tried to mix it with some other genres, and it's not being done in the right sense, and you can hear it. And particularly if I'm going to sound like a music snob here, but if you are into that music as well, and you know a bit about it, because outside of metal and punk, I listen to a lot of hip hop, and I'm like, if you approach that scene, I know how they would react to this, and it wouldn't be favorable. This just isn't, and like you said, it can be because a label has told them, right, let's mix. Like, for example, once I got, how the hell did he tag himself? Part emo, part hip hop, or was it part death rock and something else? The death rock, I thought, oh yeah, attention, and it was a mess. It was as messy as it sounds. And I was
death rock and hip hop working. That works in my head.
Yeah,
it's like there is an intersection between like East Coast hip hop and black metal.
Definitely. Oh no,
there's a Russian band that do it really well.
I think I know you mean the
Roger Kadoji that did the Black Hop albums.
Oh no, I was thinking of sorry, what they're called, Moscow. They do a bit of punk and hardcore as well. Oh man, Moscow Death Brigade.
I'll take a listen to them. Take a listen to the album's called Black Hop. It's very much East Coast hip hop meets early black metal.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. So I know I've kept you both here for a long time, and I'm starting to get hyper again, and I know it's getting fairly late. So I will save you from my verbal diarrhea for now. I want to thank you both for joining me. I've really enjoyed talking to you and nerding with you, and it's been a real pleasure to meet very open-minded musicians as well, which is a good thing. And I look forward to seeing you play live. Love to do a deep dive about the new album when that drops, break it down song by song, get into it, everything. I think that would be awesome to do. Is there anything you would like to shout out that I may have forgotten when I've been going off topic tangents? Put you on the spot there.
Yeah.
I was thinking of something cocky to say, but no.
So someone will. Don't worry.
Yeah, my brain just farted and like died off now.
Oh, my mum was at birth, so don't worry about it.
But yeah, it's been really great chatting to you. Yeah, we really enjoyed this, and yeah, we'll gladly do a deep dive when album 2 comes out.
Definitely.
Yeah. And maybe we'll see you in Leeds.
Yeah, we'll hopefully see you in Leeds.
Definitely. Definitely will.
And you can learn just how much noise 2 people can make.
Definitely will do. So folks, I am back on another episode of Fed Up tomorrow. get at me if you would like to appear on the show, any genre of music, and I'll talk to you. The same for independent film. Don't forget to follow, support, and subscribe to stay up to date with everything that I do here. I'll put all the links for the MEDEA project in the description when YouTube finishes processing, which is always a wonderful period of waiting. But take care of yourself, folks, and I'll see you on the next episode. And peace out for now. And it's time for awkward pause time as we hit end stream. So in 3, 2, 1, here we go. Awkward pause. Hey.